So, what do you do about a lack of sex in your relationship? Chances are, if you're watching this video, this could be going on for you and you could have a lot of confusion and pain around it. I know this can feel personal and maybe even shameful that this has dried up in your relationship. And I want you to know from the start, you're not broken. It's not your fault. This is not something going dramatically wrong, most likely. And your relationship is not necessarily doomed. I'm Jessa Zimmerman. I am a licensed couples counselor, a certified sex therapist. I've helped hundreds of couples navigating this exact thing, lack of sex in their relationship. How do they bridge these differences in desire and the struggle and stress that can come into your sex life? So, first, let's talk about what's normal. And I got to say, normal is not a word I'll even use with my students and my sex therapy clients because there is no normal. But I have had so many people ask me in our sessions, in our meetings, is it normal? Are we the only ones? They're so worried that something is wrong with them and they're the only ones struggling and they feel so much shame and confusion about this. Are we normal? Are we normal? Yes, you're normal. Struggles with sex are inevitable over a lifetime together. There's no way it's going to always work easily over an entire life because, at the very least, we're aging. Now, a sexless marriage, technically, I don't know who defined this, but at some point got defined as 10 times a year or less. And you might, but here's the thing, it's not even frequency that matters the most. It kind of bugs me that it's all based on frequency. How often are we doing this thing? As opposed to, are we connecting? Are we happy? Are we engaging with each other? Do we feel good about our relationship? I have definitely worked with couples that do not have sex very often. Technically, it would be considered sexless, but they're totally happy. And in fact, two people could be not having sex at all. And if they're both fine with that, there is not a problem. They can thrive and feel connected and energized and be totally happy that way. But for people that are probably watching this video, one of you is unhappy with the lack of sex in your relationship. And so that's what we're going to talk about. So, usually, one person, the higher desire partner in a relationship, is very aware of the lack of sex and is focused on wanting it more. And maybe is focused on getting their needs met. They're feeling more frustrated. They're feeling rejected. They're feeling perhaps desperate. They're feeling confused. They're feeling like I would do anything to make this happen. I totally want to get my partner engaged in this, but I keep hitting a wall. And meanwhile, the other partner, the lower desire person, isn't feeling much libido, if any at all. And they could be feeling guilty, broken, inadequate, like it is their fault. They're feeling pressure. They feel like it's their thing to fix, but they have no idea what to do. This is where this lack of sex can start to cause more and more division and fear and uncertainty, and almost like you're more polarized with your partner over time. Like this impasse gets worse. This is what I see with couples all the time. So, should you be worried? I mean, ask yourself a couple of questions. Do we have love and friendship and goodwill in general? Because lots and lots of otherwise happy couples are struggling with sex. But if you've got those strengths in your relationship, that's really good news. Are we good teammates in other parts of life? Can we talk to each other? Do we listen? Do we care about each other's experience? That's also a really good sign. And do we still enjoy each other's company? Do we have fun? Do we laugh? Do we have some common interests? Is there still something that we've got that holds us together and binds us? Or are we totally two ships in the night? Right? If you've got these strengths, I want to say, I mean, of course, I can't guarantee anything, but you can absolutely take the stress out of your sex life and overcome this lack of sex. Now, it may not be, it won't be the amount the higher desire person wants, but there's middle ground here to work together to make it actually fun and easy for both of you. Now, red flags to watch for that would make me not like question whether you could resolve this, but might indicate that you might need to work on your relationship first and maybe even with a therapist. Um, is Are there um, I don't know what Gottman calls the four horsemen: contempt, stonewalling, defensiveness, criticism. Is there constant conflict? Are the two of you fighting about things? Or do you have that total disconnection, like you're two ships passing in the night? Those are some serious barriers to connecting intimately. So get some help with that first so you can get to a place where your relationship's good enough that it makes sense to work on sex. So, yes, dry spells are normal. Sex is going to ebb and flow over the course of a relationship, right? Things happen, life gets in the way. We pay attention to other things and we come back to put more attention on our sex life. But we don't want to get complacent when it starts to become a concern, especially if one person, is more focused on this lack of sex, would like to have more of it going. So, why do couples stop having sex? Why does it get so infrequent? And that's not a really easy question because there are a lot of different variables that can be going on. Okay. So, first of all, the honeymoon period ends. They have done, I think it's Helen Fisher has done studies on this. The brain chemistry changes after about the first 18 months, unless you have some other factor introducing scarcity, like a long distance relationship or something. So, in the beginning of your relationship, your brain can be full of the chemicals and neurotransmitters that create that literally intoxicating feeling of new love, what they call this limerence. That fades. Now, not everybody like loses their sex drive or their interest in sex with their partner at that point, but the brain chemistry is different. That can prop up desire in the beginning in a way that you can be alarmed when that changes. And we can't really get around this. It's not really a problem. It's something you need to adapt to. So you go from that sort of passionate beginning where you can't keep your hands off each other conceivably, where now you get a more mature love and you have to keep eroticism and energy going in your sex life more intentionally. And then we have that desire mismatch, the higher desire person, the lower desire person. And this is going to happen in every relationship because why would any two people want the exact same amount of sex? So this mismatch will creep in over time. Someone will be the higher desire person. And by the way, this can shift. It's not like a role you're always in. You could have been in the other role at some point. But how we deal with that discrepancy can start to create distress and make this worse. So it's not the mismatch that is the problem, it's how we're handling it. But it can really start to create an abyss between two people that can lead to sexual avoidance. And then we've got things that can affect libido in general that you might be able to do something about: stress, depression, health issues, hormone changes, medications you're on, and relationship problems. Because again, if your relationship is a container in which sex happens. So if your relationship is not in great shape, that can absolutely impact somebody's desire to have sex. So all of these things could use time and attention to make them better, where libido might emerge again. And then when we think about why do people stop having sex, maybe they never adapted to what I call reactive desire. I've talked about this a lot. There is proactive desire where we are horny, thinking about sex, in the mood, seeking it out. But there's also reactive desire. So this is where they're starting at zero. The engine is cold. It's not on their mind. They are not in the mood, but they could get in the mood. If you got the connection you need, the time you need, the touch you need, you might get in your body. You might end up aroused. Look at that. Now I want to have sex. When people don't understand that this, first of all, is totally normal and valid, but if you don't adapt to that and you're waiting to feel in the mood, or you're waiting for both of you to feel in the mood at the same time, this is one reason that the frequency of sex could go way down. And then we've got, life can just get in the way. You might have children, jobs, parents, stressors in your life that can throw on the brakes for people. Now, some people seek out sex more when they're stressed out. Sex is a stress reliever, but for a lot of people, it's a blocker. So you got to look at what's going on in your life and what can you do about it to make some space and energy for your intimate connection with your partner. Another reason people might stop having sex or reduce it dramatically is a sexual dysfunction. So this is where something's going wrong in your body, or at least it seems like it's going wrong. Your body's not working like it used to, like you expect it to, like you wish it would. And first of all, there can be shame about that, self-consciousness about that, and you're embarrassed about it basically. But it could also change your sexual functioning enough they can't have sex the way you used to, or the way you like. So it requires adaptation. But if you're ashamed or embarrassed about it, you might just avoid it instead. Or maybe your partner's avoiding it for a reason like that. And in fact, one of you could avoid sex because your partner has a sexual dysfunction, not because you do, but because your partner does. And you don't want them to encounter that, or you take it personally that they're struggling with arousal. I mean, it gets so complicated if somebody's body's function has changed and is, throwing a wrench in the works. And we have to adapt to this stuff. I mean, I'm always working with clients and students like, how do we create the best sex life with the pieces you've got right now? And I guess I'll throw in here, it's really helpful to get medical treatment. A lot of sexual dysfunction is treatable, and that's a medical process to be working with a physician to figure out what's going on, what can we do about this, can we resolve this? But at least in the meantime, can we enjoy the sex we can have based on what we've got working right now? And like I already mentioned, relationship problems can be a serious barrier and could really be a part of why somebody would stop having sex. If you don't like your partner, you probably don't want to have sex with them. And we can love each other, but not like each other. So this container really needs care. So if you have got unresolved conflicts, major power struggles, communication challenges, if you're not functioning as teammates very well in life, this could totally kill desire. So get some help around that. Talk to each other openly. And if it's not resolving the issues, if the two of you can't get on the same page and repair that container, seek some help because a therapist could really make a difference. So, in a long term relationship, sex isn't primarily about chemistry anymore, again, because that brain chemistry changes. Now, it could be that one of you is still driven by chemistry and like that hormonal drive towards sex, but it's so much about emotional connection and it is about this container. It's a form of communication and it's a way you express and experience your connection together. And you have to reinvent the way you have sex over time. It's not going to look like the early days, maybe when you were 25 and it was all easy, right? It's about reinvention and adaptation and communication and trying to figure out what can we do now that we would both enjoy. More intimacy tends to lead to more sex. But ironically, more sex does not necessarily lead to more intimacy. So it's really important to take care of this emotional and communication connection that we have with our partner so that sex is a wide open playground that we can go to. So if you're struggling with a lack of sex in your relationship, how can you talk about this with your partner so it could be a productive conversation and not turn into a fight or the same old conversation you've had over and over with no clear path for change? So, first of all, don't make it about blame. Don't make it, why won't you have sex with me? What's wrong with you? You should get your hormones checked. You're just like your mother. Don't focus on frequency. We should be having sex 3 times a week, and we haven't had it since last September 9th at 8 a.m. Don't make it goal oriented. We have to fix this by a certain time, or only sex is only going to count if it's intercourse with orgasm. Don't ambush your partner with the conversation. Don't surprise them right before bedtime. They're going to have this heart to heart. And maybe, I don't know, most importantly, hardest to do, don't just talk about your pain. Your pain is totally valid. It is really painful to struggle with sex in your relationship and the lack of it specifically. But if you're only talking about your own pain, your partner is likely to feel worse, more guilty, more inadequate, more like they are disappointing you and letting you down. And that's going to do one of two things. It's either going to shut them down more so they continue to avoid it, or they might start having sex out of a sense of obligation to take care of you, but that's not going to be a truly connecting experience. So instead, frame the conversation positively. I love you. I'm here. I am committed. I want our relationship to be as good as it can be. And I know we're both struggling. This is the elephant in the room. We're both aware that this is a problem and that I'm sad about it and that you feel guilty about it. It's difficult for both of us. So let's work on this together in a way where it could truly be fun and easy for both of us. I'm always trying to get people to work on this as a win-win. How do we create a sex life that we could both feel good about? That's the goal. Couldn't that be fun to explore? Give yourselves room to redefine what counts as sex. What does sex mean? It doesn't have to be intercourse. It doesn't have to be the same thing you've always done. It doesn't have to be so focused on a goal of orgasm. Sex is about a combination of pleasure and connection, and you might have to get a little more flexible about what counts or how you're approaching this so that this whole thing can be easy again. And how do you rebuild some emotional connection with your partner if that's a blocker for your relationship? First of all, communicate openly, without expectation, without pressure, with like true curiosity about your partner and caring about their experience. Open up that kind of dialogue where the two of you can feel each other again. Restore some daily kindnesses and gestures that matter to your partner. Think about what their love language might be. Do some things for them that could be meaningful, that are small to you, but would mean a lot to them. I promise you there's going to be some of that available. Stay open, curious, empathetic. The two of you don't have to see things eye to eye or see things the same way to care about each other's perspective. Really be interested in how they see things and how they feel and demonstrate that care and concern, and that will get through to them. And then show up as a person you want to be unilaterally. This is not like, oh, I'll do this if you do that. I'll do this as long as you do that. You're making a decision about who you want to be in this relationship, and show up that way and hold yourself to that standard by yourself, no matter what your partner's doing. That really is going to invite them into a space to meet you there. Be good teammates, work on things together, consult each other, support each other, have each other's backs, don't undermine each other with the kids. Spend some quality time together. Figure out some way, what I call an anchor time. Could you have 5 or 10 minutes every single day as a bit of a ritual for the two of you to connect and not talk about kids or work or money? Could you have a weekly date night? Doesn't even have to cost money if that's an issue, but like spend a couple hours together focused on each other. Could you have a getaway once a month, once a quarter, even once a year? How could you have a new hobby where you're both enjoying something, learn to go dancing or a ceramics class or sing together, something that energizes you and is invigorating that you could share. And don't forget about non sexual physical affection. For an awful lot of couples where sex has become difficult and they're avoiding it, it's a stressor, they kind of move away from any physical affection at all. Partly because the lower desire person can worry that if I do this, it might lead to the idea of sex or an expectation. And I don't want to start something I'm not sure I can finish. But pay attention to that non sexual touch, cuddling, caressing, kissing, hugging, that can be a source of real connection and can help you almost co regulate your nervous systems, calm down, and like connect in a heartfelt way together that might open the door for more sexual intimacy down the road. So I'm going to just share a quick story, no names here or anything, but I was working with a guy that came into my course and they hadn't had sex in 5 years and they had never talked about it. And at first he just thought, well, maybe it's change of life stuff. Maybe something's going on. If I wait, it'll come back. And then it got long enough that it just felt weird to say anything. And he got really bewildered. And he was sort of fixated on sex that it wasn't happening, but he was also concerned, like, what's going on? And we never talk. And so he came into work with me and we really focused on his ability to communicate and show up as a teammate and care and be curious about what's going on with his partner. And as he demonstrated that, his wife started to share what was in her way. And there were relationship concerns she had that he had no idea about. And she opened up and shared, and he listened and he cared and he was just curious. He wasn't defensive. And he really started to change some of his behavior, including how he showed up and communicated, but also some of the things that she was complaining about. And over time, as he demonstrated all of this unilaterally, and that this was permanent change, and he was committed to it, sex resumed. So sometimes that relationship container can be such a big barrier. And just by showing up and doing your part, what I call your side of the court, you can make a huge difference. And your partner can be invited into desire and a sexual experience that's like, I don't know, he even said it's better than it's ever been. So it can be a hopeful thing. So when might you consider getting some professional help? A couples counselor, perhaps, a certified sex therapist, likely. What are the signs that you might benefit from? I mean, maybe anybody could benefit from professional help, but certainly if communication doesn't get anywhere, you're having these conversations and they're over and over again, but nothing has changed. Even if you've been in couples counseling, working on communication and all this stuff, but the sex is not getting better. If you can't talk about sex without fighting or tears or real distress, if you argue about everything now. Like this is under the surface and kind of makes you sensitive and argumentative about even the smallest topics, right? All of these are signs that a professional, somebody who's certified in this, who has worked with hundreds and hundreds of couples, could help the two of you break through into a different kind of conversation, give you actual tools and exercises to do to transform this and to figure out how you can explore what could your sex life look like with your partner that you could both be enthused about. Truly is possible. I will say, if you're going to look for a sex therapist, make sure someone is ASECT certified. That is AASECT. That's the organization that certifies people, that makes sure that they have training and supervision and experience. Because oddly enough, in every state but Florida, anybody can say they're a sex therapist who does therapy. So make sure you're getting somebody really well qualified. So, what I want you to remember is that when sex fades in your relationship, it is usually a symptom, not the core problem. The real issue is typically a lack of emotional connection. Uh, Expectations that set you up to feel like you're failing. So you're caught in a cycle of avoidance around sex, or your desire differences, discrepancy, is creating more and more of a gap between you and your partner. All of this stuff can be worked on and addressed and navigated if the two of you have all that goodwill and love and respect in your relationship.